So this is my talk about being knee-deep in signals. I'm hoping that all the food is eaten that was out there and not available for people to throw at me during this talk. So my name's Dan Jones, and I do Wi-Fi type stuff. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever else. So here's the conclusion, okay? It's okay to put APs under a desk, I promise. Lots of people kind of going, what is this guy talking about? Well, I would like to explain and go through it, okay? So little by little, I'll kind of explain what's going on and all that kind of stuff. And plus, you have to believe me because I'm British, and otherwise I'll tell the king. So first thing I want to do is play a little game with you, okay? So I'm going to very slowly unblur some things that will come up on the screen, and I actually want some participation here. So you've had a little bit of time now. Hopefully you're awake. You can kind of get involved. I don't have any prizes, but I might come and give you like a pat on the back afterwards, okay, if you get this right. Yes. Okay, so if you know what this thing is, shout it out as it starts to kind of unblur itself on the screen. Anyone know? Netflix. Yes, Netflix. Okay, right, good. We're kind of getting into the swing of it, right? This one's a bit more difficult. Anyone know what it is? What type of car? It's a Tesla Roadster, the original Tesla Roadster. Okay, next one. American thing, this. Tide Pod. Yeah, nice. Mouthwash. This is a British thing. Dyson. Well played, Dyson, yeah. It looks so old now, doesn't it? Okay, next one. Falcon 1, yes. Good. Okay, this is more difficult. This might only be a UK thing. Does anyone know what this is? A square reader. Yeah, square reader. Okay, cool. And then, does anyone know what this one is? Yes. Okay, great. Cool. So, why have I given you these random things on a screen? Well, when I look at these things, I think about companies, products, things that have kind of taken something that's kind of existing, and they've kind of rethought it, right? They've kind of gone, is there something that we can do to get rid of some of the fluff, get rid of some of the extra bits, and use the kind of current technology to do something different, right? So when we look at something like Netflix, before Netflix, for me, it was Blockbuster Video, right? So you'd go down to the store, you'd see like 10,000 of the same DVD, you'd hope that there was like a case behind it, and you'd take that out, and you'd take that home, use it, drop it into the thing. You've got the space rocket, right? The Falcon 1 rocket. Before that, space exploration was the purview of countries, right? And it took, okay, Elon Musk, probably not the best person to bring up on this thing, but it took him to come out and say, well, hang on, like if I do like a cost analysis of everything that's in a rocket, it shouldn't be costing the money it costs, right? And maybe we can do something different, and we can start reusing these things rather than just throwing them away every time. Same with the car. It's like, well, do we have to use dinosaur mush to power these things, or is there a better way of doing it now with the technology we've got, right? And like the square reader thing was an absolute revelation for me. That like, you think back to like the reason why we had the POS systems was, you know, we had to have something that you could swipe a card, you could put a card in, you could do all this kind of stuff. You wanted like a receipt roll, all that kind of thing. Well, they were able to just get rid of that and be like, well, everyone's got a phone. Let's just make it so they can pair it to their phone, and now anyone can take card payments. You don't have to rent something for, £100 a month just to be able to take card payments. And then obviously Hermina did some stuff too. And for me, this comes back to first principles, right? It comes back to taking something and breaking it down and saying, okay, is there a better way? Is there something that we can do that's different? Is what we've always done the best thing to do, right? And I'm not going to read this. I'll just let this kind of come out. And I think this is something that's really important, and kind of Rob Boardman kind of alluded to this in his talk too, like actually taking things and breaking them down and thinking, the way we've always done things, is that the way that we should always do it, right? And kind of saying to yourself, for instance, why do we put APs on the ceiling? Is it because that's the best place for them? Maybe. Is it because originally, when we first started putting APs somewhere, we wanted them up out the way so they gave us as much signal, as much coverage as possible, and maybe now we want APs to give us less coverage so we have more density? I don't know. Maybe. So, I kind of try to approach these things in these kind of 4 ways, right? So breaking down the problem, identifying all this kind of stuff, right? Is so breaking the thing down and kind of getting to the heart of what's going on. So this is pretty simple. Here are some example floor plans, and I'm sure we've all had stuff like this before. So, you've got things like this big atrium here in the middle, and you can see this is the 5th and 6th floor. This went up quite far, right? And architects do this amazing thing. On the outside of glass buildings, they put this UV filter on there, right? So the building doesn't get too hot. But they don't need to do that on the atrium in the middle, so they don't put the UV coating in, which would block all the signal and stop all the neighboring networks coming down and completely ruining your design, right? But they don't do that on the inside. And then there was this building that I did in London, and normally you'll get, in very, very tall buildings, of which this is one in London, normally they'll put the kind of core of the building in the core of the building, not the side of the building, which is what they did on, it's completely come out of it now, which is what they did on this one. So you'll see here, the core is actually right to the edge of the building, which gives you this amazing big open space with no walls. Nothing to attenuate your signal at all. So when I came up against these two in particular buildings, and actually this was the first one that I did this in, I was kind of thinking, okay, how am I going to get around the problem in this building, right? So let's come back to this thing. Let's deconstruct the problem. Okay, the problem is roaming isn't working at all. Clients walk in with their laptop in their bag, they associate to that first AP right at the entrance, and they stay stuck to that first AP, right? Okay, so let's have a look. My assumption was we need to put APs on the ceiling, right? We have these things that we kind of say in the industry. These are our kind of like non-negotiables. Do this, don't do this. Do these things. For 99% of designs, that's going to work perfectly, right? That's going to work really, really well. For the 1% though, okay, maybe not. So APs need to be line of sight. We want to get them line of sight if we can. We mount them to the ceiling, right? That was my assumption. But I've done work on stadiums where I've put APs under seats. And I know they work really well too. So if you don't have to have APs on ceilings in stadiums, and there may be some people that would say you do, but if you don't have to in stadiums, what's the difference with a really high density Wi-Fi first environment in an office where you've got desks and people sat down and things like that, right? So what's the difference? Another thing that I've kind of put here, right? The thing that, again, like with a stadium, like when there's no one in the stadium, does it matter if the Wi-Fi doesn't work? No, because there's no one in there. Right? So you get all this co-channel contention, you get all this kind of stuff, but it only matters, and it's worse in a stadium, but it only matters if there are people that are trying to use that channel and then there's way too much traffic, right? So, again, one of these things we're always told, right, co-channel contention is the worst thing. You definitely don't want to have any overlapping APs on the same channel. Correct, if you've got a really high-density network. If you've not got that many people in because after COVID you've got, say, the marketing team come in on a Monday, the sales team come in on a Tuesday, the finance team come in on a Wednesday, and they all sit on their desks all around next to each other, you end up with, what would be, if everyone is in, a really high-density environment with loads of people in there, but actually, it's just one team that's in, and they just sit in one area of the office, right? Okay, so maybe we can use these bags of water that come in every day, and we can use those to attenuate the signal, right? Because I'm very good attenuator of signal. I've been working on this for a few years now, So yeah. Okay, so, this is where I'm supposed to do my drawings, but I've taken that out, because Joel does his drawings live, and I was like, hey, I want to do those drawings live too. And then I tried it, and I'm not good enough. Joel has obviously been practicing a lot. So I pre-drew my really good artistic drawings, my skills of an artist. That's a little Trogdor reference for people there. Okay, so this is what we normally have, right? We have AP above people, we have people sat on desks with their laptops. We are trying to get the signal from the AP to the laptops. Everyone agree? Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, right? So in this instance, right, we have all of this other bit, the bit in yellow, where its signal is going out, where we don't necessarily want nor need it, yeah? Because it's a high-density environment, so we're trying to keep the cell sizes as small as possible. Hey, Dan, just turn it down. Yeah, okay, fine. Hey, Dan, just use a directional antenna and point it down at the people. Really good option, right? Dan, definitely don't do this, right? Now, I want to talk to you about the directional antenna, okay? Because that is an important thing, and I completely agree with you. The building that I was doing this in had a ceiling attenuation of 2 dB. Because it was a very, very, very tall building. And what do you not want on a very, very tall building? Lots of really thick concrete that's going to make the building really, really heavy. So what they had was lots of metal that was going out, and then very thin floors. So if I used a directional antenna and I fired it down, I could connect to that AP 3 floors down, right? And so this is the point, right? You need to kind of actually go to the place, see it. Okay, yeah, don't want to put omnis up there because we'll have too much spill. We need higher density. Absolutely, let's use the directional. Okay, let's use the directional. Let's just quickly test the floor below. Ooh, that's hot. Okay, it's really hot. I wonder if I go the floor below. Oh, I can still connect to that AP. Great. So yeah, that wasn't an option, right? So I thought, hey, let's chat to the team at AccelTex. Let's get them to make me a new mount, which is what they did. Have I got the key in here? Or have I left it? No, I've got the key here. So what I like about this is they have a little drop down. I slot it in, and then I hook it up like that. So now the AP is facing up. And I can lock it so people can't mess around with the cable and the AP and all that kind of stuff, and stick it under the desk. So let me show you. This is what we did. It's got little vents there so you can get some of the heat out and all that kind of stuff. Lovely, lovely. Under a desk, ready to go. Now, one of my customers where I did this were like, hey, we don't want the thing, we just want the AP to face up. So we just took the metal bit out and we screwed it to the desk. And here's another one. Now I hear lots of people saying, I would not get away with that. Absolutely. I completely get that. This was more about being able to give my customers a Wi-Fi first experience where the AP was as close to the client as possible, and the further you got away, the more the signal dropped off, right? And it worked for that. And have a look at this, right? There's a big steel bar right next to that AP. No way that's going to work. It did. It did. There was no more retries when the AP was under than when the AP was on the ceiling. It worked. I promise I tested it. So let me just show you a quick survey that I did to kind of demonstrate this, right? So this is in an office. You've got an AP on the ceiling, the blue one there, and you've got an AP under the desk, the purple one there. You can see the spread difference. These are the same AP, the same power, same everything, right? And you can see the spread difference. What's interesting about this is a meeting room, and I've set that to the trigger threshold there of the client device, right? So they were complaining that they were walking, the IT team that sat near this AP were walking into that meeting room, which was their meeting room, and they were still connected to that AP, and they were getting really poor experience in the meeting room. So I did this. Now, these are both going to trigger at the same time. So basically what I did was I counted as I walked, and then I moved, and I walked. So these are at the same time, okay, connected to the ceiling AP and connected to the desk-mounted AP. And you can see the drop-off difference, right, between the client, and this is coming from the phone, from the device. You can see the difference as I moved away, and then you can actually see the roam that happens as I get to the office door and I roam to the different AP. And I did not roam on this one. Okay. So this is a chart from a friend, which effectively did the same thing. I think Keith used the same chart. I did a little bit of artistic license with this chart, and I added some thick lines so that you can see it a bit easier, right? So red line is ceiling mounted, green line is under desk, and you can see the drop off as you walk away, right? You'd expect this, kind of makes sense. So, what are the benefits? And these are some of the benefits. APs are closer to the clients. When they move the furniture, they actually come back to you and say, hey, we're about to move all those APs because they're in the furniture that we're moving. Can you come and do a redesign? And they actually did it. That first customer actually came back when they moved the furniture and asked me to do a redesign. When have you ever had a customer that when they moved the furniture actually asked you to come back and do a redesign? Normally it's, hey, that Wi-Fi you put in for us 3 years ago, it's rubbish. Oh, send me new floor plans. Okay, the furniture's nowhere where it was before, right? It's easier to service for the team, for the IT team. They just go to a desk, unlock a thing, pull the AP out, replace it, job done. No working at height certificate, no out of hours that needs to be done, all this kind of stuff. It's cheaper to cable because they're already run cables to the desks. So there's no new cable runs that have to be run. Yeah? And some clients care about aesthetics. Now it's under a desk, it's out the way, it's not on their lovely designed architectural ceiling. There is one bad bit. The APs will fry your knees. So I got some AI to do some calculations for me. If you have 1 gram of water and you wanted to raise the temperature 1 degree Celsius, it will take 1.32 years at neg 39 to do that. So there you go. It will take a bit of time, yeah, if you did want to do that. Okay, right, so I'm almost done. I just want to show you very quickly. So this is our office, and this is Joel's desk, and I've just put an AP under his seat. And I just want you to see like how we can model out the difference between, an under the desk AP and an over the air desk, a ceiling mounted AP. Cool. Thank you very much. It's been lovely having you.